change the view. I don't know if it was showing both of us before, but now it is. Yay. Um, so I have some questions I wanted to ask you. I don't know if anybody who's watching this has seen, but until now I have been doing my interviews purely written. So they've been on the website, and I interview Black multilinguals, or Black bilinguals, what have you, just so that people can see images of us. Because as you know, in the language learning communities, the face is very much white male or white, even though, you know, Africa is the most linguistically diverse continent on this earth, and a lot of us are African descent. So that's in our DNA to be able to speak multiple languages, actually, but yet we're not the face of this movement or this community. So that's why I do it. So I wanted to switch to the video interview. So I'm going to start asking you some questions. But yeah, so you told us a little bit about you living in Japan. And so what's your heritage?
Me, I just American. Yeah, I grew up in Georgia. Mom and dad both from America, so nothing special. Just we all speak English. My whole family speaks only English.
I mean, that is special. I actually just wrote a post on African American vernacular. I don't like to call it that, but that's the buzzword right now. And so we have our own language, we have our own culture. A lot of us think we don't. We're just regular degular. And we are, but at the same time, it is special. So
Right.
it's just not what people be thinking, like, oh, are you from the islands? Are you from this or that? So
Exactly.
I always ask that question. It's always great when people like, no, I'm just, blackity black, black, black. Like
But
that's
I guess I'm trying to say, like, we don't have any other languages per se in our family or in our group or in our community around us, but I was still able to have bilingual children. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like what I try to like promote to people. It's like it doesn't matter that your mom didn't speak it, your grandma doesn't speak a language. You and your family, your kids now, you can still do it.
Okay. All right, that's good. I want to do that too. Like that's part of my message as well. So you said English is your native language. Um, okay, so that was your only language growing up. Were you ever exposed to any languages besides English growing up?
You know, we had Spanish in high school for like that little one class that you slept in. And
Yeah.
then you still got that A though, right? And then in college they make you take foreign language classes. So I took
Mhm.
Spanish when I was getting my bachelor's degree,
Mhm.
and I just like, nah, this is something that I have to do just to get to my degree. So I didn't take it
Right.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the part of the thing. That was part of my feeling of isolation why I started this platform, because I felt like I was the only person taking it seriously. Everybody else was like, let me get this A, let me get this B.
Yeah.
But
Just
that's
put the mark that I
okay.
took the class and move on. Yeah, it's because they start the languages just so late. Like in high school, we're just senior year, I'm like, I'm out of here.
Right.
Whereas if they would have started in elementary school, middle school, people would have been more receptive to it.
Right. I agree. I agree. And so tell me what you do professionally, anything. I know that you have the YouTube channel, which by the way is doing really well. You're well on your way to be having your first 1K subscribers.
Yes, we're
Yes.
almost to 1,000 subscribers. I'm super excited. So my YouTube channel is Chocolate Sushi Roll, and I just want to help encourage other families that are monolingual only, that they don't have to wait for a language class. You don't have to wait for the school system or anything. You can teach your kids yourself a language,
Right.
and I think people just get caught up on the term like teach. So I'm trying to like move away from that and say learn with, should I say?
Mhm.
Because to teach something, you feel like you need to know it first. And that's what I get a lot of times. They're like, well, I don't know enough to start teaching my child. And it's like, no, go from zero with your child and let's learn together. So like even myself, my family, we're learning Japanese. And I tell my son all the time, I'm like, oh, babe, I don't know that word, but let's look it up. And we pull out the dictionary and then we pull out YouTube and I put it in the YouTube search and we watch a little video about it. And we're like, oh, that was interesting. And now we start using it in our everyday language. It's like, even in English, I don't have all the answers. So it's like, it's not taking away from my fluency to say that I don't know that word, because I don't know it in English either. Sometimes I have to look it up in that too, but I'm still American. So that's my number one. And then my number two focus on the channel is for bilingual parents that are not teaching their children their language. I meet so many that are so focused on English. They're like, oh, my child needs to learn English. I had a hard time growing up, so I don't want my child to have a hard time. Or I don't know, I haven't really thought about it, or I felt awkward talking to my child in my native language. I feel better speaking to them in English. And I think it's so important for them to have that connection to their heritage. And they can't even speak to their grandparents sometimes. And it's really sad for the grandparents. They want to talk and have moments with their grandkids. So I like to promote that your child can be fluent in English and also still be fluent in their heritage language.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know here, I guess here, because I'm in Germany, and here they have a different take on it. It's like I noticed that the parents that had the hardest time assimilating and being accepted here, those are the ones that's like, we speak German at home. Like, I have a friend, he's Egyptian, and he can't really speak Egyptian. He has an Egyptian passport, and he also has a German passport because he was born here and been here so long. So, but when he goes to Egypt, he understands what's being said, but his Arabic is not that good. And I asked him, why is that? Were you not interested? And he said, my dad was never really there. He went back and forth to Egypt. And my mom, because his mother's the one who works here in Germany, he said his mother had a really hard time. So she didn't want him to have that hard time. So she was like, no, I want to make sure your German is perfect and that these people have no reason to like basically make you like an outsider, you know?
Exactly. And I find that I meet those families all the time, especially Spanish families in America. They said they had a hard time coming over, and they're like, no, my child is first generation. So I want them to be, you know, all American, no reason for anybody to say anything about them. But now all the Americans are trying to learn Spanish to talk to them, and they don't know no Spanish.
Right.
So it's like,
that's true.
Teach them both. You can teach them both. Yeah.
I think that's amazing that you not only encourage the learn with, but also they can do both. They can assimilate and know both languages. That does not, you know, you have to and that's the thing I don't think they understand. They have to realize they came over here, you know what I'm saying? They came over here already as an adult. You know what I'm saying? Your kids, they have the ability to learn both languages and speak both languages accent free. You don't necessarily have that, and you cannot use your experience to say, oh, I don't want my kids to have the same experience. They're not. They were born here, you know?
So I struggle with some parts of language learning, of course, and we'll get to that, but my son does not. I'll spend like a week or 2 weeks trying to grasp a grammar concept, and then I'll start like just using it around him, and then he just walks up and he's like, oh, Olivia, ni tabesa seru? And I'm like, did you just use that grammar concept that took me 2 weeks to?
Oh
and
my God!
So casual, just runs around, and I'm like, it took me like almost a month to just wrap my head around, like, when do I use it? Why?
Right.
And he just gets it all like this. Or if I think I'm gonna teach him something new, he goes, I know it already. And I'm like,
excuse me, wow.
well, excuse me, sir.
Right.
Their brains just latch on so much quicker. Yeah.
And how old is he?
Oh, my son is 5 and my daughter is 3.
Oh, wow.
And we speak, so Japanese and English are our first languages. And then their second language, we just started this year, is going to be Spanish.
That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, when they were babies, I looked it up, and there's a lot of Chinese immersion schools in America. I don't know why, but I'm sure there's a reason it's the number one language. Yeah, so there's Chinese immersion schools, because I was looking for Japanese immersion schools. But one of the things they do at the Chinese immersion schools, where they were saying that they use that concept that Chinese and English are given. And then once the child goes to, I think they start like say second grade, third grade, then they said your child will have a choice to pick a second language. And I was reading that in the brochure, and that kind of stuck with me. I was like, that's not their second language, the Chinese. And if you treat, let's start over. Children rise to the expectations of their parents. So I noticed if I treat it as Japanese and English, that's our first language. We just know it. Nobody had questions. Nobody struggles with it. Nobody's like confused, nothing. They're just like, yep,
Right.
I'm American and I speak Japanese. That's just who I am. And then it's like, oh, also we're doing Spanish as a second language. Then our expectations for Spanish are not as high, but we know that Japanese and English are 100% fluent. We can read, write, listen, all that.
Okay. So, basically, so this is the thing. When you're going to the store with your children, so you speaking both to them, or you only speaking Japanese since you're outside, or how does it work?
So when I started our language journey, we lived in America for the first 4 years, 4.5 years. We were in America and we were learning Japanese. So the majority language, of course, is the language of your community, which is English in this case, and our minority language is Japanese. Okay, so you got to try to keep these balanced. So for me, I would speak only Japanese to the children, and then when my husband gets home from work at 5, we'll switch to like a more English-based household where we can still speak Japanese, but we're going to keep it more English.
Right.
And then when we go to the store, when we go anywhere, we speak Japanese. And sometimes what I used to do when he was little, he speaks English, right? But people would talk to him and I would translate it to him in Japanese. And I'd be like, oh, she said your hair is cute. If I could say it in Japanese, I would translate it to him. And people were like, oh, I'm sorry, does he not speak English? No, he does. And it just showed him, it was just like, for one, it's just more exposure to the language. If you're able to say it. And
Right.
two, it also, without me even knowing it at the time, it showed other people that you speak another language, because they're like, you can speak Japanese, and like doors and opportunities that you didn't even know existed can open for you. Then 3, it teaches your child that not to be ashamed of their second language, because I know that's another thing that comes up in the forums, the chat rooms for like bilingual parents are, I feel like my child's ashamed of it, or I'm embarrassed to use it in front of people and things like this. But if you are openly speaking it in wherever you go, church, grocery store, anywhere, the park, we are speaking in Japanese. And the positive responses that they get from people really help give them that like affirmations to want to speak more, want to learn more. They're like, oh man, people are like, oh, can you teach me how to count to 10? Or they hit the konnichiwa, but they say it wrong. And it's like, oh my God. But he loves, it's just feeding into them that you're doing something good. Like keep it up, because people are interested. They see what you're doing and they support you.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh my God, that's so great. So, in addition to, Japanese, English is your first languages, then you're learning Spanish. Are there any other languages in addition to those 3 that that's still a lot though. Japanese.
Right now, that's enough.
Yeah.
So we have moved to Japan, and so we've been here 1 year. Woo, 1 year in Japan. Yeah, it went by so fast. Like the whole year was just kind of getting ourselves situated. I had to learn where everything is in the American side on base and as well as off base. I don't drive a car here. I actually went with the typical Japanese ride, and I got a mamachari. It's a bicycle with a little battery on it. And I have my daughter in the front and my son in the back, and we ride everywhere. We are the mall, the park, everywhere.
My goodness.
On this bike. The roads in Japan are like this big, so the bike is really good. And then what else did I do? So I had to learn all the bike routes and things and how to get to his school. I had to go to PTA meetings in Japanese. So everything's just so.
Oh my gosh.
Blur of.
So are they going to school off post?
Yes, yes, my
They're
children
going to
go
school off
after
post.
school.
Oh, wow.
So I had to get them situated into school. And the school supply list, when I saw it, I felt like Celia in The Color Purple. I
Stop
was
it.
like, yes, girl, I was standing at the mall like, and this Japanese mama, I'm telling you, I told her, she just like, I wish she knew that movie. She took the list and she just started putting stuff in the cart, girl. I swear it was like a movie. And I was like, thank you. You don't
Oh
even
my
know.
God.
Because even if you can read it, some of the things I think are that are lost in translation are
Mm-hmm.
just when you grow up in something, you know. It's kind of like my friend was telling a story about how she went skiing in this part of Japan and something, but I could understand the story, but the parts I were missing were more like cultural, like because you grew up in that area, you
Right.
know that the flowers bloom at this time or something like this, right? So she
Right.
was skipping over some things that you would just grow up knowing. So the school supply list is kind of like that. Like, you know that there's the indoor shoes, then there's a bag for the indoor shoes, then there's a bag that you put the indoor shoe bag in on Mondays, but not on Fridays. And girl, it's a whole system. Yeah, so I spent this year learning it and I'm good. And so I feel like coming up this year, my goals are kanji, mastering all the kanji finally. I can read okay, but I want to like read, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Spanish, of course. But my youngest daughter is starting school this year. So I will have some free time to dedicate to the YouTube channel, to Spanish, to kanji, and all of this.
That's great. Oh my gosh. And so with your Japanese journey, how long would you say that how long would you say it took you? Well, first of all, did you master the other two writing systems, or
Oh, yeah.
so
Yes.
you master, how long would you say it took you to master those two writing systems?
Like a week. Those are
They're
easy.
easy? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
those are easy. Those are easy. So you can just use mnemonics and learn hiragana and katakana like 2 days if you
Okay.
really try. Like,
Okay.
and I'm saying from I've never seen Japanese before. I can teach you to this if you applied yourself.
Right.
2 days, you have the hang of it, and then you spend, of course, the rest of your years practicing every day.
Right.
So the thing about that I really like about learning with your child is children's books. They're gold. So I read a book to my children. Every morning we read 2 books, and every night we read 2 books. And that
Mhm.
is a given in my house. Like, that's it. And if we have company over, they read a book to my child. I don't care what you came here for. You came to get a plate of food.
I'm
You came to just talk.
done. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Because
I
I
need to
mean,
use that philosophy. I need to use that
really, these are
philosophy.
some little, it's the little things that add up. And I think
Hmm.
that, people are like, what are you doing that I'm not doing? Because I'm not in my kids' face 24/7. They get on my nerves the same as yours. They
I'm
call my
done.
name too much. I hide in the bathroom too. So I'm a normal mom. I'm not doing anything. But the difference is I have labels up in my house in
Hmm.
Spanish, Japanese. I have things like this I read every day. Every day when they wake up, they know we're gonna read a story. And even on the off days, we might not have read it like right when we first woke up because we're a little off. We ate breakfast, whatever, but that story gonna get read.
Right.
So it's like they know, or they'll, Mom, you didn't read it, or we didn't have our Spanish time. So if you set up that routine, they'll be asking for it. They're like,
Hmm.
hey. Another thing that I kind of made into our routine was I'm trying to think. So I did the labels, the books, and sorry, tangent. Let's go back to reading hiragana and katakana. So if you read every day to your kids, then that's your opportunity to practice. So you're practicing hiragana every day, 4 times a day.
Right.
Therefore, you're going to get to a fluent reading level pretty fast. So that's what I did. I started with a book that only had one sentence on it. You know what it means because it says the cat is running.
Right.
Okay, and the picture of the cat running. Go to the
Right.
next page, same thing, because it's a child's book. And that's how we learn together. And the books grow. And now we're on books that have, paragraphs, and we're reading through them, breezing through them. My son can read too, and he just started kanji. And my daughter's starting her first.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the first two are not that hard.
All right. So with all of that, do you consolidate tasks, or do you just, when, like, for instance, when you're reading, do you read to them while they're doing something, or is it like you read to them and they're listening actively?
See, I have babies. So with the babies, so my rule is no technology on. So if the TV's off, we're all in the same room, they're listening. What else can they hear? They're
Right.
listening. And little kids hear everything. If you know it, because they tell all your business when they go to their cousin's
Oh,
house
they
or such
do.
and such, right? They was listening. You thought they was playing with the doll, but they was listening to you on the phone with your friend. So we're going to use that philosophy. They are listening. So even though she was looking at the storybook and then now she went and picked up a car and she's zoom, 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 she's still listening. And that's like your time to, really keep practicing reading the word. Just read through the whole book, regardless if they're sitting still. A good tactic is for parents that don't have this system already set up, you can get a special blanket and you can say this is a story time blanket. And like when I bring this blanket out, then you sit down on it and put some toys on it, some blocks. If the book is about colors, put things about a color so they can be touching and encourage them to move. I
Right.
don't like when a child just sits still. It's fine. Move, be free. Because when they're at school, they got to sit for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So they don't want to come
That's
home
true.
and sit. Like,
That's
let them
right.
move, let them dance around the room, make it fun. Because if they're laughing, they're learning. And that's what you want.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I and I feel like I got some more questions, but unfortunately, my microphone slash headset is beeping.
Oh, no.
But I think you've given so much good information as far as learning together and teaching kids, because I feel like I had a previous interview and someone read it and wrote me and was like, that was a good interview, but I feel like she didn't really tell me anything. I feel like there was nothing that I could actually use. And I feel like you gave so much value today. So thank you so much for that. Like, thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. I do feel like if you make a YouTube video, I do try to ask myself, like, if somebody's spending their time watching it, like, what can they take away from this?
Right.
So since we're cutting it short, any other tips that you want, parent motivation? That's the kind of videos I'm trying to make on my channel. So I'm not actually teaching the language, but I'm here to teach you how to teach the language. It's kind of
Right.
like when you get a dog and you want the dog trainer to teach your dog. They don't teach the dog. They teach you how to teach the dog. So that's what I want to do. I
Right.
want to teach you how to teach your children.
Okay. And where can we find you anywhere else besides Chocolate Sushi Roll on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and I'm going to start a Facebook page, a Facebook group. But for now, you can find me on Instagram and YouTube, Chocolate Sushi Roll. Yes, subscribe. And I love to hear from you. Comment, inbox me. I can help you with your questions. Usually it's just an easy fix. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
thank
just
you so much. I am so glad to have you here. And before we go, your skin looks flawless. I love your skin.
Thank you. I don't do anything.
That's not what I want to hear. I
Anything.
wanted to hear you
Of
had a
anything.
5-step routine.
No, I'm team natural for real. We got dreadlocks and nothing. I'm
Beautiful
that sister
skin.
that doesn't do anything. My sister is plug hair by Tara. She does hair and everything, and she is gorgeous. So we're
Mhm.
complete opposites, but it's funny. It's always
All
sisters are
right.
always like that, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm like that with my sister too. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. And that's it. I'm signing off. Thank you
All right,
guys.
bye.